This is Larry Novak with Politically Speaking. I have breaking news today. The Brockton Republican City Committee and the wards, Brockton Republican Ward 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 broke history the other night by endorsing by a unanimous vote my election and the election of Jeannie Falcone to be on the Republican State Committee. They rejected the election of Jeff Deal, who had run for United States Senate. One of the hotly debated issues during that meeting, Jeff Deal received no votes out of over 72 people being there. Jeff Deal received 0 votes. One of the issues that did come up was his voting history, which I went over and looked at it afterwards. A woman claimed that Jeff didn't vote from 1997 to 2002. That is breaking news. It never was brought up during the Senate campaign. He registered to vote and never exercised that right. And then in 2002, he was a Democrat after that, to 2009, which is alarming to say the most. A party position should be held by people that have core values to the party, not by people who have never really participated in it. And his wife is running, and somebody said to me, they asked me, what has his wife ever done for the Republican Party? Well, I can't answer that question. I don't know. I've never seen her active. In the 90s, when Bill Well was fighting the Democrats and we were fighting to take control of the state Senate, Jeff Deal wasn't here. In the late 90s, Jeff Deal didn't even bother to vote. So he really wasn't committed to the principle. When Paul and Joe Malone were running for governor, Jeff Deal sat on the sidelines, not participating. When there were elections in the Senate district, Jeff Deal wasn't even registered to vote in those elections. He helped no Republican candidates. So those are alarming trends. It is breaking news that when you run for the Senate, you would expect to have some support. He had run for the state Senate in Brockton. He didn't get a vote in one ward. He doesn't have the support of one elected party official in the city of Brockton. He has 0 support with members of the Brockton City Committee. And especially the newer members of the Brockton City Committee. Many of them didn't even know who he was, which shocked me. They asked, who is he? So that is alarming. We nominated, let me tell you the procedure, because he'll probably attack the procedure. We placed in the names of the nominations of all candidates who had filed for state committee. Gordon Andrews, the incumbent, received 0 votes. Jeff Deal received 0 votes in any of the wards. And Scott in Ward 6, who's run for City Council, received 0 votes. I received every vote that was cast. I had no opposition. People spoke out that I have been the person that's there, Jeannie and I, to hold the party together. And it's been an uphill battle with the changing demographics in the city. The good news, it's Ward 1, 3, 5, and 7 will file full slates in the next election cycle. And I hopefully will have 6 done in the next few days with a full slate. And then I'll go in to do 2 and 4. Those were the breaking news. And the breaking news, it's the first time in history of the Republican Party in Brockton that every ward committee endorsed 2 people for state committee. Every ward endorsed Jeannie Falcone and Larry Novak. That is 61% of the elected Republican Party officials are supporting their candidacy over Jeff Deal. Jeff Deal's candidacy and his wife's candidacy simply have failed to catch ground. Most people had negative comments to say when they both learned that they were both running. So this has been tried in the past, has been always been rejected by the voters. It's time to tell it like it is and get it out there. The voters, it is a power-grabbing mechanism by one family to dominate an area. Why would both husband and wife run for state committee unless it was a power grab? Then let's look. Jeff's tried to run for party chairman and was not supported by the majority of people. Jeff tried to run for U.S. Senate when the voters rejected him. He ran for the state Senate in the district, and the voters of Brockton overwhelmingly rejected him. Now he has an attack on people from Brockton. He doesn't like Brocktonians because of their independent streak that supported one of their own. Well, Jeff, I hate to tell you, Brockton always supports one of its own. It is the most significant community in that Senate district. If you cannot win Brockton or be competitive in it, you cannot be elected to any office in the Senate district. The facts speak for themselves. Nobody has ever held that state Senate seat that hasn't been a resident of the city of Brockton in the history of the Commonwealth. Nobody. So, I mean, he would have had to break history and to try to do that. This is a copy of his voting history that shows he was a Democrat and was inactive. Before that, inactive. These are the official records out of the town of Whitman. It will show Democrat when he lived at 174 Cranberry Road, Whitman, and now he lives at 10 Village Way, Whitman. He is now, in the last few years, been a registered Republican. But this is a different election than U.S. Senate. This is about party positions, party principles. This is about people that have loyalty to the GOP. It's just not about running. Then I looked at the, because he'll raise my past and I'll raise his past, I looked at his commitment to how much money he's ever given to the party. Mine amounts to over 200,000. His amounts to around 28,000. His commitment has been nowhere near what my commitment has been, or Jeannie Falcone's commitment has been to the Republican Party. We walk the walk and talk the talk. We put our money where our mouth is. And I resent the fact that Jeff sat on the sidelines and didn't assist the party in the 90s. He didn't even bother to vote. And then when he did start voting, he became a Democrat. I haven't looked to see if he gave money to the Democrats, but I will. And I thank the people at the town hall that pointed this out to me. They were very helpful, and they wanted it out. So, therefore, I think it's a clear choice between commitment. This election is about somebody that's done for the party, about somebody that constantly is running for another office. He doesn't get elected to this, maybe he'll run for dog catcher in Whitman. It seems to be the overwhelming drive in him is to hold political office. I held this office for 40 years. So this is Jeff Deal, again, attempting to reinvent himself to get another political office. It's all it's about. State Senate, U.S. Senate, state rep, party chairman. Not been very successful. He withdrew from the party chairman's fight. As I've been told, he endorsed Brent Anderson for party chairman. He then went on to fight another fight. So it will be interesting to see that his wife now is running also. They want to keep any political clout in the family. I'd like to hear your opinion. Should a man and woman both run for the same office in the same family? This is Larry Novak with Politically Speaking, one of the most talked about Republican shows in the South Shore, give me a call at 508-822-1106. We still have elections going on in the city of Brockton. City Councilor Davenport, as I had predicted, didn't make the finalist. From what I can see, from what I'm hearing from people, he is viewed as a racist. He is viewed as somebody that doesn't like white people, which is, shocking to me when you're, running in the city and that still has a substantial white population. So, he was eliminated. Judge Lawton was eliminated. So it's Bobby Sullivan and Jimmy Pereira. They both spoke the other night before the Republican City Committee. I wish them both well. They both did a very good job. They articulated their vision of where Brockton should go. They asked, some common sense questions. They have some common sense solutions about where the party is heading. This is not, Brockton is at the crossroads. The biggest issue in the city seems to be unpaved roads. The roads are in terrible shape. Councilor Beauregard should be ashamed of herself that she's running at large after the roads in Ward 5 are in the most horrendous condition of anywhere in the city. There are potholes on every road that you go. Why aren't the roads getting paved? Roads attract people. It attracts a cleanliness element to the city. When you have potholes and grass growing through the sidewalks, it looks like it's unkept and gives a terrible image. This is not the future, nor should it be the future of where Brockton will be. This is Larry Novak with Politically Speaking. I can be reached at 508-822-1106. We'll get back to the Brockton thing. I think the mayor's election will be closer than the preliminary, but my prediction is today, if the election were held today, that Sullivan would win onto the mayor's office for a period of time. The problems in the city are large, and they need to be, there needs to be new solutions to them. We have no financial institution that is Brockton-based in the city. We talked about that. It is time that we try to start a new financial institution in the city. It shows a decline when the city doesn't have a banking thing that's based in the city of Brockton. I think there would be a market for that. I think there'd be a fairly big market for it. The old Mass Trust is gone. And we should maybe revitalize Mass Trust. Get some investors and start a new bank and see what we can do. So there's more money locally that care about the local problems. I asked both candidates that question, and they both said, they'd be willing to put city money into deposits, into accounts that would benefit the city, moving the accounts from the present institutions that they have. They moved out of the Bank of America, I think they told us, canceled our account with the Bank of America. That really has no local connections to the city of Brockton. And all it is a fee-driven institution about money. And I got to laugh that its chairman of the bank now is going to get involved in social issues that he says not what the stockholders want, but what he thinks of defining that the bank should have has a moral obligation to speak out. Why don't they help the people that went into foreclosure with the bank and he did nothing to help them? So his moral compass only goes with what he can get publicity for the bank. This is Larry Novak with Politically Speaking. Getting back to the state committee fight, the Republicans will have a four-way fight. in the man seat and a two-way in the women's seat. For the men, it's Larry Novak, your host. Then there is the incumbent Gordon Andrews, if he files. Then there's the incumbent, there's the challenger who ran for the U.S. Senate, and there was a Democrat, Jeffrey Deal, and then there was Scott, who ran for city council in Ward 6. It's Jeff Deal's wife goes by the name Boyce, and I think that's how she'll be on the ballot, which will not help her because that name is not highly known. It will help Mrs. Falcone if she uses her maiden name. But you know, what I remember of them, they were always Democrats. They never helped her family with any Republican candidate. Now they've come over and they've seen the light. Or is it are we talking about an opportunist that wants to use the party to further his own political goals? I don't know. That's up to the voters to decide. This is Larry Novak, and I can be reached at 508-822-1106. We will be taking a break shortly for our advertisers, and then we'll hear from Joey. We're going to do a little bit different. He's going to give us 6 things in the year in review.
Three things.
6.
All right, well, I'll find them.
Okay.
I'll find them.
Okay.
All right, we got it.
Here, we're going to take the break.
You are listening to 4 Deep Sports Talk here on the news station, 1320 AM WARA.
Dom has a lot of passion in what he does and what he brings to the community. I don't think I've ever seen anybody put as much effort into a program as Dom does.
The East Bridgewater game. Shelby, we talked about that.
The first time I met Dominic, I thought, oh boy, what am I getting myself into?
If your team did not make it, send all complaints to Lucy Cabral. Her email is, no, I'm only kidding.
Dominic Dimiano is passionate about Boston sports, and like many of us, he has his all-time favorite professional athletes.
It'd have to be Bobby Orr in hockey, because that was my generation. Football, being a linebacker, I think would be Andre Tippett. Of course, Larry Bird. And in baseball, I would say it was Dwight Evans.
But that same passion Dom has for the pros, he also has for the kids, the youth sports athletes and programs that he features on his weekly radio show here in Attleboro.
You can just see the excitement in their face that they had a chance to be on the radio and, you know, now on Facebook Live, doing the Facebook Live thing.
Enthusiastic. She's very enthusiastic. So you're just kind of laid back on the sidelines, like just running plays, and then she's over there just screaming the entire time.
She's pretty loud.
Dominic's 4 Deep Sports team consists of a group of passionate people led by his on-air sidekick and partner, Lucy Cabral.
He's very vibrant. He has a lot of things going on in his mind. So trying to organize his mind is where I came in.
And Lucy came in 5 years ago as an intern from Bristol Community College. Her background in education in music from Berkeley College, and also in advertising and PR from Johnson & Wales. This mother of 2 certainly brings a different perspective to 4 Deep Sports.
She's the mother figure when it comes to talking to these kids, and she brings a calm aspect to the show.
Dominic brings a certain flavor to the show. As far as dealing with kids, he knows all the different aspects of coaching and everything about sports. I bring a calmness, so to speak. Talking to the kids and talking to Dominic, yeah, we play off each other very, very well.
Actually, we'll send it over to Nate. We'll blame Nate.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, we'll send it to Nate, our beat writer. Again, we love to interview the kids. We're there for them, you know, every Saturday at noon on 1320 AM WARA and doing the, again, simulcasting live.
And since January of 2000, Dom and his team have been showcasing young athletes and programs, giving them their time to shine in southeastern Mass. Why? Because he lives for this. He loves it.
He's not looking for any glory. All he's there for is to shine shine a light on youth sports and the accomplishments that are happening in this community that many people don't even know about.
I think it's the hidden treasure that no one actually appreciates anymore. And to see them again, to see them lighten up and see them and just see their expression, just a good feeling like they feel accomplished. I get a personal, personal high off that, seeing the expression when the show's over, you know. Just makes you want to grab the next group, and then the next group, and then, you know, try to go around as much as we can around southeastern Mass.
Hey, welcome back. You're listening to 4 Deep Sports Talk here on the news station, 1320 AM WARA, and online, all one word, 4deepsportstalk.com.
This is Larry Novak with Politically Speaking. I'm back on the air. We were talking about the Republican State Committee fights in the city of Brockton and Hanson, Halifax, Hanover, Whitman, Easton, and Plimpton. Under the incumbent state committee people, Plimpton is not organized, which is a disgrace. Nor did Mr. Deal, when his years of involvement, ever tried to put a town committee together in Plimpton, which is not acceptable either. When he was a state rep. We now show his voting history. Again, it shows that he was an inactive voter for 5 years. I don't really understand that. It goes against my grain. And then he was a Democrat, as the paper shows, and then he became a Republican. And he's now running for a party position. That usually you want somebody that's been a partisan person in those positions. Both he and his wife, I think, are former Democrats. And now they want to decide what is in the best interest of the GOP. But history is littered in Massachusetts with people that ran for statewide office and never got elected to the state committee their first time out. Marion Bach was the first woman nominated, almost won the Secretary of State's office, was defeated for Republican State Committee woman. Mr. Miller, who ran for Attorney General 2 cycles ago, ran and was defeated, came in third out of Winchester. It is literally littered in history with people that are not successful. There was Congressman Cronin barely won 1 year when he ran. I think it was by 18 votes, and he was a sitting member of Congress at the time. Voters are not kind to people that have not been involved with the political party for years. You know, it's great to articulate and fight for an issue, but that's not what a state committee person does. A state committee person is out there recruiting and raising money for candidates and the party. My record is second to none in that thing. I have letters of thank you from Bill Well, Margaret Heckler, Ed Brooke, going back in history of this party for years. I have singularly put together the Brockton City Committee in most election cycles. My opponents who criticized me years ago, when they took it over, they ran it into the ground. They had it with 16 members. And they had the nerve, when I think back, to be critical of my operation of it when it had 225 people on it. Shame, shame, shame. They raised no money. They gave out no money. And this is a little core group that supported Jeff Deal. People that didn't do what they were supposed to do. Losers. Jeff Deal is an opportunist when you look at the thing. He has no core values in the Republican Party. You know, and it was what was said that he would get slaughtered in the end, and he did. Elizabeth Warren slaughtered Jeff Deal in that election. I've been going door to door asking people if they know, and they say, who's Jeff Deal? He spent $3 million on the city, in his election, and I have knocked on now 250 doors in Brockton recruiting people, and I hate to tell you, not one person knew who Jeff Deal was. I was shocked. I figured, well, you know, if he runs, he's the odds-on favorite. He ran for the Senate, spent $3 million. Well, he might be known in the towns, but he's surely not known in the most significant community in this Senate district, Brockton. He's run 2 elections, and I never saw him in the city of Brockton. So therefore, any Brocktonian that would vote for him would be crazy. But that's today, and he was an honorable and did a good job as state rep, but he has not been able to advance off of it. This is Larry Novak with Politically Speaking. What is terribly troubling for me is the fact that both he and his wife are running for state committee. It would be one thing if Jeff was simply doing it, but his wife too? Come on. I mean, what significant thing has she done for the Republican Party? Is it because he wants her to have control of vote? Give me a break. It is so obvious when you look at it that because the incumbent state committee woman wasn't at his beck and call, that he decided, I will dump her. I'm the powerful Jeff Deal. Well, you know what, Jeff? It's the voters that will decide, not that clique that you hang around with. It will be the voters that will decide. Jeannie Falcone has 61% of the party officials with her. Larry Novak has 61% of the party officials, and we haven't even asked the other ones yet. We were stunned to be endorsed, and it's the first time in the history of the Brockton Republican Party they did it. They heard the name Deal, and they were with us. So that is a great tribute to us. I really look forward to debating these issues with them. I went to something for a candidate for state rep and down in Halifax, and she told me that he was running, and I said, well, that makes the race far more interesting. It does. But she didn't mention his wife was running at the time. State Committee man Gordon Andrews texted me and said his wife was running. I was stunned to learn that. What a power grab. What an attempt to grab the limelight by a family. This is a service to the public. I'm sure he'll do well in Whitman, as we'll do well in Brockton. I'm sure he'll do well in East Bridgewater, where he represented. I'm sure Mr. Andrews will do well in Halifax and Hanson. And I am sure that Hanover is up for grabs by anybody. So it will be an interesting development, and it will be an expensive fight. We're already taping TV commercials to get our message out on where the future of the party should go. So Mr. Deal still owes money on his U.S. Senate campaign, according to the most recent filing in the Federal Election Commission. He owes the political master of dirty tricks, Holly Robichaud, over $30,000. And these are it's time to tell it like it is and call people out for things, that they've lived in glass houses and got away and thrown stones at everybody. But I'm sure Mr. Deal will throw stones at me in the weeks to come, and I'm fully waiting for him to do it. And I will respond in kind. People that live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. And it is time to move this party forward. And it is time, let's look at the two. Brockton's the poorest community in the Senate District. It raised the most amount of money. The Whitman Town Committee, where Jeff Deal is a member, raised half of what Brockton raised. Where was Mr. Deal in that seat? Where was Mr. Deal when the Hanover Committee raised practically the wealthiest community in the district no money? Why wasn't the incumbent state committee man asking the questions, why aren't you raising money to assist Republican candidates? That is one of the core things. I've been involved for 40 years, ever known of a fundraiser other than for himself that Mr. Deal has done for any candidate. So, that's one of the functions. I've raised money for Wells, Salucci, Malone, Heckler, Brook, you name it. When they won Lake Ann, I've raised money for everybody. in the party. I've raised for the Republican State Committee, the Brockton City Committee, the Republican Lawyers Association, and that's an interesting thing. I built that up, and after leaving it, it fell apart. So it tells me the commitment is important. The commitment of people's commitment to the party long term is very important. Their drive to help people achieve. Where was Mr. Deal in helping elect anybody when I wasn't involved? Anybody in the city of Brockton? He was absent. Appearing at a fundraiser isn't the same as running in and getting money in for candidates. Just appearing and giving a speech isn't the same thing. It's where is the bacon. I don't know of anything he's ever raised money for. He might be a very nice person, which he is, but the function is to help raise money and to get candidates. Did he recruit any candidates in the Senate district? No. Has he recruited, he ran himself. Has he recruited anybody to run? No. Now his aide, Sumner, is running for state rep. But I mean, did he recruit her? No, she ran the last time. So it is an interesting, what is his record of service to the Republican Party? I don't know. And those are the telling issues. Has he produced, does he have a political PAC to help candidates? No. Has he given money, a large amounts of money to candidates? No. Joey, do you have a phone? I'm gonna look something up. Go to the Office of Political Finance and put Deal in and see how much money he gave. I think it's $30,000 over an extended period of time. And I will match mine. I think mine, according to them, is 195,000. So put in Deal, Joey, and tell me how much money he gave. You go to the records and think, and you interrupt when you get it up. You might want to go to the computer if it's easier for you. This is Larry Novak with Politically Speaking. We're talking about the Republican State Committee fight in the 2nd Plymouth-Bristol District. And then I went to his recent announcement that his wife was running. The comments come from people outside the district. Very few people in the district, comment on it. Mrs. Falcone has served with distinction for, I think, 16 years. Now we just push her aside because Mr. Deal wants his wife in. What a bunch of gratitude. It will be interesting to see who I'm sure they'll support her, the Whitman Town Committee. And you know what? My goal is that it will be great division within the Senate district because of this run. Most U.S. Senate candidates don't run for Republican State Committee. They do not step down to those type of offices. That is the interesting fact here. Are you able to find it, Joey?
Having a hard time.
Why don't you give it to me and I'll be able to do it as I'm talking on the radio.
I can probably do it on the computer real fast.
This is Larry Novak with Politically Speaking. We are talking about the Republican State Committee man's fight in the 2nd District and women's fight. The Deals are trying to take both seats from the one that has an incumbent in it. Mrs. Deal is who all the years of my involvement, can't tell you that she's ever done anything. But they weren't active when we retook the governorship in the 90s. They weren't on the sidelines. They never voted. They were Democrats in those times. Then he goes on, and because there's a Democratic incumbent, he swaps party to Republican. And then he's going to run now as a Republican for this party position. He's ran for party, the state Senate, and was defeated. He ran for the U.S. Senate and was defeated. He ran for party chairman and withdrew because he couldn't gather the support of the state committee members after running for United States Senate and was the nominee of the party. It doesn't transfer. The votes have never transferred that way. The historical pattern is the historical pattern is that most times when statewide candidates do run, they do not give a good race in state committee races. Their life shelf life is limited. His wife, who I do not understand this power grab, is running for state committee woman. Her family were prominent Democrats in the town of Whitman. Their association has been with the Democratic Party, not the Republican Party. But now, because they think their Jeffrey and his wife, Kathy Joe or something, should be state committee people, they are now running for that office. Shame on the Republican voters if they put them in and throw those people that have served the party for 30 and 40 years. It is not helpful.
Is that the right number?
It's not helpful. It is an alarming and disturbing trend. No, it's the right one.
Not the right one, okay.
Okay, you have to put his name in as a listed contributor, and then it comes up in the town of Whitman. Go over, there's a page that says Whitman contributors. It will print out Whitman contributors, then just put his name and it will tell you how much he's donated, and it'll tell you what I donated. This is Larry Novak with Politically Speaking. We are talking about the Republican State Committee grab by the Deal family. Today we learned that Kathy Jo Deal is running for state committee woman. And I can't tell you that she's ever done a thing for the Republican Party. I don't know. They were Democrats years ago in the 90s. And now she thinks she should be the state committee woman. My God, a colossal nerve and ego when people run like that. Jeff Deal, that wanted to be party chairman, that wasn't able to achieve that, now is running for state committee man. He needs votes to line them up. It would be obvious that he's running for something on the state committee too. It wouldn't be a rocket scientist to figure that out. It will be an expensive fight for the Deals, as other people are in the race that are going to spend money. Deal owes money on his Senate campaign that hasn't been paid off yet. So, I mean, now he's into another race. He's run for State Senate defeated, U.S. Senate defeated, party chairman withdrew, now state committee man. Does he ever stop running for political office in a very short period of time? Let's tell it like it is. 61% of the local Republican people, elected party officials, support Jeannie Falcone. That is an overwhelming majority. Every ward, for the first time ever in the city of Brockton, voted for Falcone over Jeff Deal's wife. The same thing, Jeff Deal, after running for U.S. Senate, received no votes in Brockton. Let's tell it like it is. Let's talk about it. The process, let's talk about the process for a minute. We simply nominated everybody from the floor, put their name before each of the wards that met first, gave them the names of the people running, and asked them who to vote. Not one person voted for Jeff Deal, 0. Not one person voted for the incumbent, Gordon Andrews, 0. Not one voted for Scott Hall, candidate for the state senate. He didn't show up at the meeting that night. That was 0. This is Larry Novak.
Hold on one second.
So it was an interesting thing. You're on the air with Larry Novak.
Hi, Larry. Congratulations. I just want to give a shout out. Congratulations on
Well, I appreciate the call. I thank you very much. And it was the first time in history that the Brockton Republican Party in every ward in the city endorsed the same two candidates. They've never endorsed before. They only endorsed because Jeff Deal and his wife got into this race. And that was the telling tale. Jeff Deal was not even in the 90s active. He was an inactive voter and was a Democrat for many years. But now he wants to be the leader of the Republican Party. And he's run in the last, I guess, 6 years for state senate, U.S. Senate, state party chairman, and now state committee. He's not won any of those elections. Hopefully we'll continue that way. Thank you for the call. Hello?
I'm just gonna drop. I don't know. I just dropped him because
Oh.
it came out. Lost
Okay.
reception.
This is Larry Novak with Politically Speaking. We were talking about the Jeff Deal run for state party chairman. The fact is he put out feelers and didn't have any support. People did not want him to be the party chairman. And he can deny it, and we'll start calling around and getting affidavits if need be from people that he went to. He had the master of dirty tricks running his campaign, Holly Robichaud. And that is what she's known for. And I am sure, I never said anything, but on this radio program, she told people not to appear. I received 3 calls from people she told not to come. She is the dirtiest and the master of dirty tricks. So, it will be interesting to see what she has to say, and she's probably running the Deal campaigns. She's probably running a slate of candidates statewide. And everybody that votes in that primary is a Trump supporter. And that's another interesting thing. There is an article that I came across, and I've talked to people since at the White House about Jeff Deal's involvement with the Trump campaign. I was told categorically that he had a position as honorary chairman, period. He had no management responsibilities in the campaign and held no other position other than honorary chairman. That is it. He might have spoke on his behalf, but he wasn't in there on their direction. It's, he tried to use that as leverage to get the Senate nomination. Well, it's time to tell it like it is and clear the air of all these facts. Ambition, 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 and that's all this election is about. This is Larry Novak with Politically Speaking. We will be just going back to local guests next week. I have an announcement to make. The Hanson Republican Town Committee at the on the 19th is doing a luncheon for the chairman of the Republican State Party from 12 to 2. The ticket cost is $10. And you can go on to their website and make reservations. He is coming down, Mr. Lyons, to Just Republicans. We've interviewed the chairwoman a couple of times on this program. She's one of the Buckleys from Cohasset. No, not a Buckley now, but was. When I knew the family, they were the Buckleys of Cohasset. She is now the chairwoman in Hanson. She's running this event. It is on the August 19th from 12 to 2, a luncheon with the chairman of the Republican State Party. And he will be addressing the issues of concern, talking about the president's re-election, and trying to hold Senator Warren's feet to the fire in Massachusetts. So if you care to go to the website. You can make reservations there. And you can go and pay at the door that day, but they need to get an account for it before. It is next week from 12 to 2, and it is in Hanson on October 19th at the Veterans of Foreign War building, and it's 12 to 2. Chairman Mr. Lyons. You can make reservations by going to the Hanson Republican Town Committee.com. This is Larry Novak with Politically Speaking. We were talking about the Republican State Committee fights and the political grab by the Deal family to grab more political power in the Republican Party. Both he and his wife are running for State Committee. Hopefully, the voters will see that it's a political grab of an ambitious couple that really, I've been involved for 40 years. I cannot tell you that they've ever done anything for the GOP. I know of nothing that they've ever held a fundraiser, they've ever hosted candidates. They were prominent Democrats, the voices in Whitman. Let's tell it like it is. There should be, in those positions, people that have an alliance, a long-term alliance to the GOP. Somebody that, that has cares about the Republican Party, that's worked for the Republican Party, raised money for candidates. I raised money for Peter Foreman, Arthur Chase. I raised money. It was a fundraiser when Bill Sawyer ran for the Attorney General back in the 90s. That's what you do. You just don't walk off because you ran for the United States Senate and now you're going to say, I'm going to be state committee man and give my vision on what is going to happen with the party. This is Larry Novak with Politically Speaking. We will be going to the year-end report with Joey Driscoll.
All right, we have 6 to report today. The first one we have is from 1492. Christopher Columbus's first expedition makes landfall in the Caribbean, in the Bahamas. In 1792, the first celebration of Columbus Day is held in New York City. In 1892, the Pledge of Allegiance is first recited by students in many U.S. public schools. In 1901, President Theodore Roosevelt officially renames the Executive Mansion to the White House. In 1917, in World War I, the First Battle of Passchendaele takes place, resulting in the largest single-day loss of life in New Zealand history. And the final one we have is in 1945, World War II. Desmond Doss is the first conscientious objector to receive the U.S. Medal of Honor.
This is Larry Novak back, and I do want to end this discussion with thanking both candidates for mayor who spoke to the Republican City Committee in Brockton on the other night, Wednesday night. They both were articulate and did a very good job getting their vision of the city and where it should go. That election will determine the future in November, and people should go out and vote for the candidate of their choice. Then we have a new election after that. We have the presidential primaries coming up. Senator Warren and all the Democrats in March 5th, I think it's a Tuesday, the first Tuesday of the month in March, and that election will be held. We also have on that ballot the town committee, state committee positions that will be hotly contested. The ones that will probably receive the most coverage will be the man's race in the city of Brockton, and we will be articulating the visions of those candidates. We will invite them all on the air. I doubt that Mr. Deal will come, because I'm the host of the show and also running, so I doubt he'll make an appearance. But we will offer him some time to give his vision of where the Republican Party should go. And if he doesn't come, we'll report back to you that he declined the invitation. This is Larry Novak. We also have elections in Brockton of city council at large. I would suggest that nobody votes for Mrs. Cardoza. She is for Sanctuary City, and she's pushing the issue. It is not a policy that is being well received by the public in the city of Brockton. She is running on that policy of encouraging voters to go out and vote for Sanctuary City. It was the same policy that Councilor Davenport ran on and was rejected by the voters of the city. He can spin it any way he wants. He came in third. He didn't make the cutoff. The voters rejected his vision of Brockton of the future. We have the city council. We have a school committee race that Alan Green is attempting to unseat an incumbent. It's an uphill battle because it's against an incumbent. This is Larry Novak, and I look forward to seeing you next week with Politically Speaking, one of the most talked about Republican shows of the social.